Tennis coaches, in today's video, I'm going to tell you why breaking the serve down into mini segments is actually hurting your player's progress. So for years, tennis coaches have broken the serve down into different segments. Pre-throw, throwing position, contact, recovery, ball toss, striking, you name it, tennis coaches have found different ways to break it apart. The idea is if we take little tiny pieces or little tiny segments, if we fine tune them, we can put them back into the full action and hopefully see some progress. The part we forget is the human body is a very complex organism. It's not a machine. You can't just take a segment out, fix it, and then put it back and hopefully it all works together. At this stage of recording, humans are not quite AI robots just yet. By breaking the skill down, this is known as decomposition. Breaking the skill down with the mindset of being able to put it back into fully fluid action later on. And you've seen lots of examples of this over the years. The classic throwing the ball up in the air, letting it land on the floor. Throwing the ball up and practicing your ball toss without swinging your racket. Research and evidence shows us that this does not transfer when you reintroduce the racket. When you bring the racket back into play, all the skill that you thought you learned by throwing the ball up disappears. So why does it break down? Well, first and foremost, you take away the perception-action coupling. Players need information to know what type of action or movement to perform. When you take away a concept like the ball, in this clip that I'm showing you now, there is no reference point. And as you can see, this is me coaching a player a few years ago. And the idea is to get the player to work on their pronation. But you can see in the clip that my racket is always in a fixed position. The player doesn't have to adapt or change his swing on a moving object, you know, like the serve itself. And by practicing and training like this, yes, the player will get very good at developing the skill in isolation. But when you put the player back into a context of a match, the player will use different information in order to move their racket and their body towards the ball. This is why you see things like the abbreviated take back, holding the racket up early. These things do not transfer later on because it lacks the natural rhythm and the movement that we see with the serve. The serve is a coordination of multiple body segments. When you decompose and practice the segments separately, it doesn't transfer into a fluid action. That's why you see a lot of these types of serves break down under match pressure. Why? Because it's a complex human being holding a racket. Now in this next example that I'm going to show you, the player, and it's the same player, is serving towards me. They're working on serving out wide, but we've done something here called differential learning. The player has placed down a number of tennis balls on their side of the court. They have to pick up each ball, serve the ball out wide to a live returner. What the player has to do when they go around the court is find different ways of serving. Because the balls are placed in different positions, the player has to subtly adapt their service motion to achieve the same success. This is what we call repetition without repetition. The same outcome, but finding multiple different movement solutions. Research and evidence shows us players who practice this way transfer the skill more into a match. Why? Because they've got information to use. They've got my position as an opponent. They've got a target area. They also have to think about their position on the court as well. They have to find their own movement solutions to find success. Isolating or breaking down the serve is a very common myth within tennis coaching. Research and evidence shows us it does not work. It may look good on an Instagram or YouTube reel, but in reality, it does not transfer into matches. Now, I don't know about you tennis coaches, but my job is to make my players perform better on the match court, not to look good in an isolated reel. When we coach the serve, we have to coach the serve. That involves throwing the ball above head height, making contact with a racket and trying to get the ball into the service box. By using a constraint-led approach, you can manipulate the task in many different ways. You can make the service box bigger, smaller, fatter, narrower. There's a million ways in which you can develop the serve without breaking it down. We need to move away from this misconception, this myth that we isolate skill and then we put it back into an open situation, we will see transfer. So tennis coaches, let me know down in the comments, how do you coach the serve? If you would like 5 game-changing drills, check out the description and the link below. As always, if you want more tips like this, subscribe and like the channel. And until next time, I'll see you soon.